all three of you are incredible educators who are in this space. Samantha, how does education in the blockchain and crypto world differ from the traditional learning paths? And can you tell us a little bit more about how the blockhead fits into this?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think when I first got into it, like Ellie, you're going to meetups, you're going to lectures. Half the time you're just learning by osmosis and conversations around you. There was no courses at the time. There's no class you could take at a local university. I think since then we've made a lot of headway. There are a lot of online certifications. There are a lot of online programs you can go to. Now there are several books you can read and documentaries you can watch. However, I think this space just moves so quickly. Like blockchain and crypto changes by the day. I think in the last week, the news about Doge and Elon Musk throwing a wrench into Bitcoin, these things, the space moves so quickly. I believe there was a quote recently that it's like riding a bicycle as you're inventing it. And so I think education in crypto and blockchain, it's ever evolving. So it's actually like a constant educational learning path rather than, hey, I'm going to go read this book or take this course and then know everything. It's fast moving and you either are in the stream and keeping up with it or you're falling behind. So I think for me, people learn in all different ways. Some people are visual, some people are audio. I think for me, I always saw humor as the great equalizer. And so I really wanted to create a resource that, again, broke through that tech jargon. I saw so many people get intimidated and frightened by crypto in the early days, especially when it was a little bit less familiar and mainstream. So I wanted to break that down. I wanted to add humor so it's a little bit easier to absorb. This doesn't need to be dull academic material. Dogecoin is a thing. It's based on a meme. I think it's important to infuse life and fun into it. So I think that's where the blockhead comes in. I use memes, I use GIFs, I use things to break it up and make it a little bit easier to sink in. And then I think doing panels like this, the educational program I did with Afro Valley was huge. Being able to incorporate videos and other different resources within that, infographics. So I think embracing a long-term learning path and then also making sure you have varied media sources throughout that really helps.
Yeah, that's one thing that I've definitely learned as I've got older, that our learning journeys are continuous. And the more that technology comes into our lives, the faster we are changing and the more important it is for us to continuously learn. The idea that the generation above me was able to go to be educated for a job that would keep them educated in that job pretty much for the 40 years that they were working seems incredulous, because now you can go to university and you can be halfway through your career, and jobs that weren't even around then are now sort of major jobs. That was really interesting as well. I think when we were chatting before, didn't you both say that you were both attracted to this industry because it was so exciting, because you got bored with the other tech sectors? Yeah. So continual learning. But when it's so exciting, when you're literally looking at different ways that you can change the world, how can you not be motivated to learn, right?
Exactly.
So Eléonore, what's missing in the crypto education market today and how are you feeling it?
Great question. I guess I wanted more content that was a bit more down to earth and that was focused on beginners. Because I think there's so much content out there that's for traders and very focused on the price. And I wanted to bring it back to the fundamentals and maybe bring it also back to the philosophy of what cryptocurrencies are. So I think that's what maybe sets me a bit apart from other classes. I love what Sam just said about humor. I think with memes and GIFs and emojis, we can express so much today. And I try as much as I can in the Telegram group. So I started with offering these classes for specific countries. So Lebanon was a big focus of mine. And then other people reached out and I did one for Vietnam and I did one for Italy. And Yip saw me also in that journey and she saw me hosting these different events for these different countries weekly, which was not a good plan. And now what I've done basically is concentrate all of that material and offer it every last Wednesday of the month for free for anyone. So that sort of allowed me to just sort of have a home base for anybody that's starting and has never heard about crypto. And I feel like with that class, you have a little bit of everything. I'm not saying you'll learn everything. You can't. It's just 1 hour to just open your mind a little bit to the space. but I've been loving teaching that class. It's been wonderful. So that's where I've been focusing a lot of my energy and learning a lot as well from the people that are joining, because every month it's a different crowd, it's different questions, which forces me as well. You learn from your students, right? That's a very positive circle that I'm having right now. But education, basically in crypto, like Sam said as well, when we started, there was no place to learn all these things. And still today, I love what you said, Sam, as well, about the learning by osmosis, or maybe learning by your peers. You can, of course, spend 300 hours online. Good luck. It's fun. It's a fantastic rabbit hole. But I feel like if you join one of us or one of our courses, you will just speed the process a bit. We might be able to sift a bit the information for you. So I feel like you can easily get overwhelmed, not only with new words, new semantics, new terms, but also making sure, like, why would you need crypto? You know, what is important for you as an individual? Because it's not the same for everyone.
That is very true. I think for those of us who live in a system where the system works for us, it is more of a question of, oh, this is interesting. Why do we need it? I remember Andrew Antonopoulos saying, why do we need this? When can we have it? Depending on who you are and where you've been, you might even be in a developed country, but you're born with the wrong name. And so you're still being excluded from being able to be given even the first rung of, here's my ability to have financial empowerment. And without financial empowerment, then things like water and electricity and things that we take for granted become big issues. And peer-to-peer learning is amazing as well, when you have the opportunity to learn from someone who's educated and with those around you. I always find that really fascinating. Yep, you have peer-to-peer learning experience, and there's the DLT talent program, which is hugely popular, but also you've designed a course with Unit Masters. Can you tell us more about that, what that looks like, who it's for, how it's delivered?
Of course. Just wanted to follow up on what Ellie just said. I actually love your energy, Eléonore. It's just amazing, very contagious. I want to build on saying empowerment is like such a powerful gift, right? And at the same time, I think before we can actually tap into our real power, we need something I call literacy, like just the capacity to have a conversation, to give names to certain concepts so that we can actually tap into the power of the wisdom of the crowds, for example. Because if I'm not able to express and relate to another person, then basically this crowd intelligence won't really work out. And so the way I've designed courses is, how can we actually, from a bird's eye perspective, look at an ecosystem and navigate, have very simple ways to look. It's like a map, to look where can I find and understand the basic vocabulary so that I can speak a level just in basic terms, so that whenever I want to learn more about a certain topic, I know where to look and how to dive deeper. I kind of have a brief understanding of where this concept was developed, what were the principles of it. Because I think principles are not separate in itself, right? The people who wrote the principles, they had a journey that they came from. They had a certain worldview that was shaped by the environment in which they grew up in. So basically, it takes a little bit of understanding and contextualization to be able to really understand the ecosystem. So the way, for example, Unit Masters is designed is we have 6 weeks, and then each week has a different theme, where you basically just look at a map of the ecosystem and understand what is the role of exchanges, what is the role of consensus mechanisms, security, and who are the players, what is actually their incentive to participate in the system. Because if you understand what might make people participate in the system, you kind of understand how to play the game, and how to not even play the game, how to actually change the rules of the game if you were up to changing them because you don't like the way they are or because they have certain inefficiencies. So we have weekly sessions. Both Bridget and Eléonore have already been speakers. So we have live mentoring sessions every Tuesday and Thursdays with people who've been in the field. And what we ask them is just to share their experience about how they got into the field, their passion, so that we can understand what makes them think that this industry is so powerful or so important to our everyday life. And then we have coaching sessions. So every Wednesday, there's a person who will answer your questions. and discuss assignments that are done every week. And then there's peer learning in the sense of we invite participants to connect in study groups to do certain assignments together and check in on each other so that they can go through a 6-week journey all together and grow a little community. And we're launching Unit Masters Cohort 4 next week, next Sunday, and you can all join in case you still want to join. But I also really highly recommend Ellie's class, for example, because I've participated myself and learned quite a lot.
Yes, well, all three of you, as I say, are amazing educators. Could you each put the resources so people who are listening in and particularly on the replay can actually go and find out where they can learn more about blockheads and Crypto Canal and the Unit Master courses? Samantha, what's the end game for cryptocurrency? How do you see this growing into mass adoption? Bitcoin has been around as inception since 2009, 2010. We're now at the stage where I've seen one of the questions is Bitcoin is for everyone, why does it cost so much effectively? But we couldn't say that we've got mass adoption yet.
No, and I think we're definitely far from it. And I think it's going to be a long journey to get there. I think we're still very early. Bitcoin is still in its infancy. I know it passed like the 1 trillion market cap, but gold is 10 trillion, and we definitely have a long way to go. I think the point in the chat about gas fees is definitely real. We're still learning, we're still improving, we're still making upgrades. I think Ethereum has a lot of promise, but again, it's like we have to see how it grows. We didn't see the momentum of DeFi pick up until just last year. Even though Bitcoin's been around since 2008, still young compared to currencies in general. I think in terms of the end game question, what does that journey to mass adoption look like? I think people will slowly see the benefit of a store of value, especially if their home country's fiat currency is even more volatile than Bitcoin, or if they see massive inflation and then they all of a sudden have an alternative store of value. I always think about it like, okay, how did my grandmother get into Bitcoin or crypto? Would she ever get there? I think it would start as a store of value. And then I think whether it's that or something else would become more of a medium of exchange. I think the more companies that include a very easy UI and user experience for people, the easier it'll be to actually start transacting in crypto and moving those store of funds into kind of our everyday transactions. So I think it'll be a slow process, but starting with the store of value, moving to medium of exchange. And then I think just like the psychological adoption of what is a token? How can we use a token? We live in a completely global, fast-moving society these days. The internet has basically democratized communication and information. And we can see since the beginning of the internet where we are today. We can call a ride share on our phone and be across town in 20 minutes. We can book a plane ride halfway across the world and leave tomorrow. Like, it's insane how quickly it's moved and how powerfully it's affected our lives. So I think with cryptocurrency, it will follow that suit. Like, it will take time for us to slowly get there. It'll take time for it to weave itself into our everyday lives. But I think before we know it, we will be transacting in different cryptocurrencies and swapping them around like it's no big deal. Like we're calling an Uber or booking a flight to Europe or the US.
Yes, indeed. It's when we're not talking and explaining about what it is, but we're just using it. I have no idea how the internet works. It is magic.
Exactly.
I don't need to be explained how it all works for me to get on and for me to be able to converse with whomever I want, wherever I want, however I want, at a price I can afford. So very much looking forward to so many of the projects that I see out there in the space, looking at what problem. We have plenty of problems in the world, right? We've got more problems than we know what to do with. And I personally feel that the current economic systems and drivers of value that we have helped us to get where we are. And therefore, we need to be able to have different ones to be able to move us away from where we are into a more sustainable future. And I love all the projects that are looking at how they can work on that. I know often people complain about the energy, the cost for Bitcoin, that it's wasted energy. Of course, one, it's not wasted energy because it's the security of the Bitcoin system that is being used by this proof of work, this energy consumption. And without the security of the network, it would be valueless. So that's one aspect. The other aspect is, of course, is a lot of green energy being used, but it doesn't stop the fact that a lot of energy is used. So it's really fascinating seeing other protocols coming through saying, how can we have security, but without necessarily having to use so much energy? Eléonore, where do you see the next 5 years?
Well, I saw the last 3. And I can't even believe how fast we've grown. In 2017, it was a bit weird to be like that crazy person that would say, one day the government will fail. It's a bit of a dramatic narrative to walk around the street and you're scaring people, right? And sadly, with what happened in 2020, and when we see how interconnected our economies are, by seeing how dependent we are from certain supply chains, by seeing how your local economy is crucial to your well-being and for you to have access to certain products. In 5 years, I can only see it being accelerated, sadly, by the crisis that we're going through now, which is making us so much more acutely aware of the limits as well of our current economies. And just to be aware that 40% of the dollar supply has been printed last year. The Fed has been printing like there's no tomorrow, basically. This is not a free system, right? You can't just print. You can't just press on a button and expect no consequences or negative externalities to such stimulus packages and QE measures. I think post-pandemic days, we're going to see a wonderful, like the roaring 20s. So I can see like everybody getting out and going crazy. And then we might have to deal with the consequences of everything that we're going through right now. And financially and economically, I just hope that people walking around with smartphones realize the power that they have, that they can be connected now to this new internet magic money. That is also more than money, right? But I think in 5 years, the literacy, and there's going to be more people using it. Like Sam mentioned, better infrastructure, so better UI, UX, just more avenues for people to easily go from fiat to crypto, more merchants adopting. So I'm pretty bullish. I'm pretty positive, and I think we're just in the beginnings. And we see like these hypes of tech right now. We're like in sort of a NFT phase right now. We had in 2017 the ICO boom. Like we go through all these like moments and phases and fashion moments in crypto, let's say. But we're just testing. This is all just ongoing social experiment going on with some commentators like we and educators like we are here. But we need so much more talent. It needs to be more than the devs out there. We need all the business developers, the content creators. Oh, and something I really want to see as well is like you mentioned Uber before, that it's just so easy that you can just call your Uber. I can't wait for it to not be an Uber anymore and for me to tip my driver directly, to not have these intermediaries that are taking so much out of their pocket. I mean, it's a great product. I'm a user today, but I would love to just be able to just tip my driver directly. That's the peer-to-peer economy that I'm seeing coming up. Why not with crypto? Let's do it.
Yes, I mean, I think it's a very valid point. Bitcoin was the first cryptocurrency. What problem was it trying to address? The fact that we had in 2008 a man-made global financial crisis. So it was clear that the current model is flawed. So we need to find alternatives for that. And Bitcoin, being open source, has allowed so many other people to look at that technology and turn around and say, okay, well, Bitcoin was looking to solve the problem this way. I feel as though it's flawed, and here's my attempt at doing it. So there are various cryptocurrencies that are looking to solve a currency issue. And then, of course, so many other projects that are looking to solve other issues that we've got.
Yeah, and Bitcoin is, like you said, the first mover. But I also love my Nokia. My 3210 was a great phone, but I'm not using that today. It was a great phone and I loved it. But like for crypto, thank God we can like improve, and it's an open source world. So people, if they see a good product and a good idea and a good piece of code, they take it, they make something better. So we're really still in that phase where forking and being able to test different models, and just Ethereum, which is a better phone with like at least a camera on it, has like smart contracts and like drop the UTXO model. But it's the beauty of the space, the diversity that there is, and that it's still moving, and we're still not done with testing, basically.
Definitely no. When Keith Bates was on 2 weeks ago, he was talking about how the software industry, sort of Facebook's famous quote is move fast and break it. that sort of culture and what we're building has its pitfalls. So when we're
Yeah.
seeing all of these hacks, I think you need to be careful about what you're moving fast on and what could be broken.
You don't want a blockchain that breaks. You want it immutable and transparent and there forever. But you can change the social contract for others. But
yeah, exactly. I mean, Bitcoin can't break, and that's why it doesn't move so quickly. That's why it's trying not to be all the bells and the whistles, because they need to get the fundamental things right, and they know that changing it is very difficult and a slow process.